Para nosotras, la representación femenina en el deporte es totalmente máxima. Le damos la bienvenida a Julimar Ávila, quien será nuestra representante en los Juegos Olímpicos en París 2024.
But now when I do it, I'm like, no, like, I am strong. And I think you really have to put in like conviction and trust in what you're saying.
Ávila is in lane number 8 representing Honduras. She's the national record holder.
And then touching the wall and seeing my time, I was already blown away. And then once I saw the 16 next to my name, I was like, holy, like it's happening.
Hey everyone, Jamie here. Welcome to Flame Bearers Unedited, a brand new series bringing to you largely unedited conversation. We heard you loud and clear. You want to hear more stories of more elite women athletes from around the world. So we're going to deliver. In Unedited, we're going to bring you completely unfiltered conversation. We hit start, we have our conversation, we hit end. What we're going to see, though, is slightly different because we're not going to have all the traditional bells and whistles that you're used to in Flame Bearers production. So let's jump in.
Julimar Ávila, Honduras, and swimming.
And how did you get into swimming?
So I actually got into it because my mom wanted to learn how to swim. So yeah, late in the game, we always had a pool kind of around us, the community pool, but my mom wanted to take swim lessons and I was like a wee little baby. So 7 months, I'm already kind of touching the water. My brother was there at the time, so he would kind of take me while my mom was doing the swim lessons, but I was really annoying. So I would like only cry and I would like need to be with my mom. And then finally it was basically a mommy and me class. So then that's how I kind of started. And then my dad he's retired now, but he was an athletic director and a physical education teacher. So he was somebody that was very much like, you need to stay active, you need to do lots of sport. And so then they would also just put me, there was like this school around kind of the Cambridge area and it would have like gymnastics, tennis, swimming. So I would do all of those on like a Saturday and then kind of realized my love for the water there as well.
So how did you get from there to competing in Tokyo on behalf of Honduras?
Essentially, my whole family's from Honduras. I was born in Boston, but would travel all the time to Honduras to see my siblings and my family. And so while there, my dad was also kind of like, okay, you need to stay in shape. Because I started like competing. I started competing at a really young age and swimming for my YMCA. We also got connected with the club team that was there. My dad was kind of like, my great aunt used to live very close to the pool. So he was like, why don't you just go train there and then come back and, you know, just stay active. And then I did, and I started representing my club team at like 7 years old. And then I believe 2010, I went to my first international meet. That's when they called me up to represent Honduras internationally. Cool. And I'll never forget that meet. That was Guatemala. And so that was like the first week that I kind of said, okay, if I can do this, like maybe I can move on. That was actually the first time I've ever traveled alone as well. So it was like a big step. Yeah, it was really big.
How old were you?
I want to say like 13, 14.
Okay, and you went to Guatemala yourself?
And I went to Guatemala by myself, met my team there, competed, and then was kind of like, okay, like if I've been called up for this, I can continue to kind of work my way up. And then ended up going to like Pan Am's, World Championships, moving on, and then finally blessed and qualified for Tokyo and Paris.
The first time you met had you met your teammates before, like the national team before, or did you just show up in Guatemala without?
No,
having,
some of them swam on my club team in San Pedro Sula, and then some of them also swam in different cities. And then we kind of the national team congregated like there in Guatemala. So then going there, at least I had some teammates from my own club team that was there. So that made it a little bit easier to kind of like integrate myself. And then that was the first time like sharing a room with the team and everything like that. But it was a really great experience. Yeah.
So cool. Talk to us a little bit about what that was like growing up in the US, having two parents from a different country, competing on behalf of a different team. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think sometimes it was a bit difficult in a sense where I'm kind of like, I understand like I'm not there present training all the time with my team. So then when you would go to the travel meets, you're kind of like trying to make your friends and
so hard.
And really like talk to them and be like, yeah, like, you know, we're all representing the same country. But I think the more that I would go and train in the summer and the more I would kind of put myself with the team and hang out with them and all of that, it made it easier and I would look forward to seeing them again. I feel like it's kind of similar, like training with my club team in the States and then we'd go to another meet. You would like look forward to seeing people from different states or something like that. And I feel like that's how it was kind of feeling. It made training in Honduras, and I would really cherish the time that I had training with my club team there. Really special, for sure.
That's super cool. So when you think of like your cultural identity, how would you identify then, if you don't mind me asking?
No. I think I actually was asked this very recently. So I fully identify as Latina. And then when people ask, I always say Honduran American. I love the culture. I love going home there. I love spending time with my family. And I do feel like I talk a lot about it. And I'm proud to represent Honduras as the country and like in the sport and everything that we have up and coming.
Oh, that is so cool. Talk to us about Tokyo, then Paris, what that was like for you.
Yeah, two very different experiences for sure. Tokyo, well, also during Tokyo, I was like quarantined at one point. So there was like this whole ordeal. And I remember telling people about it and they're like, oh my God, how'd you survive it? And I was like, I honestly don't know. Yeah. And then once in Tokyo with the pandemic, yeah, it was a very different experience to Paris, but it was still amazing. The culture there was amazing. All like the village, the pool, all of that. And then being quarantined, I actually had no idea if I was going to end up swimming. But then because of the whole 14-day rule and somebody on my plane had tested positive. So yeah, I know it was crazy. But then I think it all kind of worked out as well because I think that it's not that it alleviated the pressure, but I think I was just kind of like, this is so out of my control that I can only do the best that I can, that is within my control. And then it ended up being one of the best races of my life. So that was amazing and ideal. And then Paris, that whole environment was awesome. Just having all the people there to cheer. And I had friends from London go and visit. My teammates from Colombia, because I was training in Colombia at the time, also went and cheered me on. And then I was also swimming at the same time as their Colombian teammates. So it just kind of like all panned out perfectly.
I know that you were the first Honduras swimmer and the first university swimmer to qualify for an Olympic semifinal. Is that right?
Yeah.
What did that mean to you? How cool?
Honestly, the actual swim is somewhat of a blur. I remember the walkout. I remember getting on the block. And before that, talking to my coach who was there, he was kind of like, this is a very big possibility. And I was like, please don't tell me that. I was like, I already feel kind of some stress. I was like, the fact that I can swim, I was like, I want to be in the zone. But he was like, no, in the sense he was like, make the most of it. Because whatever happened, like this really can, like you have the opportunity to do this. And I was like, you're so right. The only thing I was really focusing on, I was like, I just want to do the best that I can to represent not only my training, but also everybody that's helped me get here. Like my family, waking up early, taking me to practices, my friends that have always been listening to me when I was complaining about practice or like asking them for advice, and then touching the wall and seeing my time, I was already blown away. And then once I saw the 16 next to my name, I was like, holy, like it's happening. I was like, it's happening and I get to do this all over again. So yeah, it really can't be put into words, but I felt really honored that and like kind of just blessed that happened. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Talk to us a little bit about that community you mentioned. Your parents driving you to practice, your friends like listening to you. Who have been like your supports in getting to you to where you are today?
Honestly, there's so many names, like, and I truly feel that anybody that has kind of crossed into my life or my path has somewhat helped me get to where I am today. So like to name them all, I don't really think would be fully possible.
Totally.
But from my club team, just everybody that I would train with growing up in Honduras and also in Boston, I think that was like the formative years of my training. And then I've also skipped over like high school. I think swimming in high school, my senior year, we went on to win the first state title for my high school program.
I saw that. So cool.
Great community and amazing like bonding that we had with the women's team that year. Then I ended up only doing club swimming sophomore and junior year. So literally anybody on my high school team, shout out to Weston High School. Like it was a great time. And then swimming with BU. And then moving on to swimming with Azura, I think that really helped me as well. Just having that environment of everybody training for the same goal. All of those coaches, honestly, on him, like Gianluca, Gustavo, Coach Jose. I actually lived with Coach Jose, and I think that really helped me as well. Because sometimes I think it's kind of hard to separate like training to then when you go home, you're like, okay, I need a break. But it was still really great living with the coach because they didn't really let you kind of talk about swimming at the house. They were like, okay, like swimming's done. Yeah. And even if we did mention it like on the side or passing, it wasn't like the only topic of conversation. It was That's living great. With the family. Yeah. And having that great environment. Also, my teammates who I trained with in Colombia, I then took a break and came and studied at Imperial. and then continue to swim as well. And I think trying to find that balance, like the friends that I made while doing my master's also helped me. Honestly, my support system is just like a web of incredible people. And I feel very lucky and blessed to be able to say that.
Yeah.
And then I was training in Colombia before Paris. And so my coach, like Rami, and my teammates like Sire, Jazz, Omar, and Juliana, they really helped me also kind of find that love again for swimming to then really work my way to qualify for Paris. But I think taking the break for the Masters and then coming back was a bit of a challenge. But I was like, okay, again, when you're training with people that want the same thing and have that same goal, it's a great environment.
You mentioned something that I think so many people can relate to, whether they are elite athletes or not, is like this feeling of pressure. So what would you say for people who are stuck in that cycle right now or who are going through that? And how did you get out of it? You mentioned going back to your high school team, being in community, but what concrete tips if people can't do that?
Yeah.
Would you give for people who are stuck in that cycle?
Yeah, of feeling the pressure and kind of not performing their best.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think something that actually really helped me, not everybody has that luxury, taking a bit of a break, like stepping back actually really helped me for a little bit, just because when I took a step back, I was like, okay, why do I want to go back? If I did want to go back, I was like, why do I want to go back? What brings me like the joy when I do my sport? And then I think that kind of made me realize, okay, I'm doing this because I want to do it, not because somebody's telling me or not because somebody's saying like, you need to do these times or you need to train like this. I was like, I miss it. Like, it's coming from me. And so I think that is a luxury that not everybody has, I think, because also sometimes when you take a break, it can also just affect your training. And then that can even stress somebody out more, which I think it did for a little bit for me. But because I took that step back, I was able to say like, no, you know what? Like deep down inside, I know I still have more to give. And that's what I really want to do. I think something else that really helped me is like I've mentioned this a lot, but journaling has really helped me a lot. There was one time I got another scholarship once to like go to train in Ohio. And that was like the first time it was kind of like a really big move. And it was kind of somewhat in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. And my coach at BU, Jen, she like gave me this notebook. And since 2019, now I've always been journaling. But she basically gave me this notebook and she was like, when you're having your doubts or when you're really nervous, just put like 3 things that you're really grateful for. And that can kind of help you reflect on like what's going on in your life and stuff like that. And so I said, okay. And I think that really helped me. If I do feel pressure and still kind of like, okay, maybe I'm down in the dumps, maybe my times aren't going well, but like what is going well? And then how can I kind of utilize that to make my outlook on life a little bit brighter?
Oh, you just gave me goosebumps. I absolutely love that tool. I'm going to start using that.
And sometimes now what I'll do is like, if I have a bad practice or if I'm not feeling good, I will journal about it. But then it's like, it's done. I'm not going to kind of keep thinking about that practice. I'm not going to think, okay, what if I continue to swim bad in the next session? I'm just like, okay, this has happened. It's over. Close the book. New chapter.
Right. You get closure from it. That's a really, really helpful tool. I love that. Yeah. So catch us up to speed. Where are you now? So what has been going on for you post Paris? I feel like, there's all this hype and build up pre-Olympics and then the Olympics happen and kind of the cameras and the fans go away, but you're continuing day in and day out.
Yeah, so at the moment, I've actually taken a bit of a step back. I'm taking the break that I've mentioned, a step back from the pool, but I'm really trying to try new things because I think post-Tokyo, I just kept swimming. It was hard on me very mentally, I think also because being a semifinalist, and then I had like a month break where I was traveling, seeing my family, went to Honduras, came back to Boston, like filmed a party in New York, and then caught up with people, and then went right back into training.
Wow.
And I think I kind of, and I think it does work for some people. However, I learned, I wouldn't say the hard way, but I learned that it doesn't really work for me.
There you go.
Yeah. Not my cup of tea. So I think, being a semifinalist, then going straight back into training. And I just wasn't training the way that I was supposed to be. I felt I was like, I'm not hitting the times that I was hitting, obviously, before Tokyo. I'm not going anywhere close to those times that I was ripping when I was like tapered, even though I knew I wouldn't be, but I was still kind of expecting that for myself. So I really got imposter syndrome. And so I think, I know, and that was like the first time I ever heard of it as well. And I was like, what is this feeling? This does not feel good.
Okay, if you're open to sharing, how did you get rid of it, or how did you acknowledge it and combat it?
Well, basically, it was just kind of me feeling like it wasn't supposed to, like what happened hadn't happened, that it was a fever dream, because I was swimming and I was like not swimming well. And I would go to these community meets and like not win, even though I kind of told myself like, oh, if you're a semifinalist, like you should be winning the easy heat. And it wasn't happening. And I was like, oh my God, maybe I wasn't supposed to like be a semifinalist. Like maybe that was just a fluke. And so you start to kind of doubt your own like skills and your own capabilities. And that is really tough. And so what kind of helped me was, one, talking to my coaches who were there, me kind of saying like, maybe at some point I do need to take a step back. And then that's when I decided to go and do my master's. And then also, again, the journaling was something that I really had to utilize there. And then even when I did take a step back and did my master's, I was part of Imperial Scholar Athletes at my university. And that helped me have a sports psych. And she really helped me also kind of realize like these self-doubts are not a representation of your skills or capabilities. We just really need to build back your confidence, because it got lost like somewhere on the way.
Yeah. So cool that you had access to a sports psych. That's incredible. Any tips you would say for people who are struggling with self-confidence now, who maybe don't have access to that you would say, hey, this exercise helped me, or this positive self-talk helped me, or whatever it was?
I was often told to do positive self-talk. I think sometimes it's hard when you start, because I think at the beginning you're kind of just like, oh, they're just words. You're like, I'm just kind of saying it to myself.
Totally.
Yeah. You're like, you know what? I was doing like a yoga video and she's like, say I am strong. And I'm like, I'm strong. I know. And I'm then like doing my push-up. But now when I do it, I'm like, no, like I am strong. And I think you really have to put in like conviction and trust in what you're saying. And self-positive talk does actually really help. So even if it's just taking a moment and like meditating, but if you're like on your walk and you kind of just have like a moment of silence and just kind of say like, you know what, I got this, like this is going to be a good day. I think that already changes your outlook. So I would agree, like positive self-talk is something that can really help. Another thing when it came to kind of my performance was breaking it down.
Oh, okay.
So like with swimming, she would kind of be like, what makes you nervous? And I would always say, I don't want to like die at the end. Like I don't want my gas to run out and I'm just like struggling to lift out my arms. And so we would break it down by 50. Obviously when you race, you don't really want to be thinking, but in practice, it's the time to kind of think about the technique and the skills that you want to implement later. So she'd be like, okay, first 50, like what are we going to think about? I'm like, all right, I really want good underwaters on my start. Like that's all I want to think about. Then the next one, she'd be like, okay, what? And I'm like, okay, I want a good flip turn. And then I want to build the second 50. So I think breaking it up like that made it a lot less daunting than being like, I can't mess up this race.
Right. What does that even mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a really smart way to break it down. I like that.
So I'm thinking like even in other sports, if you're thinking like maybe gymnastics, or it's like small little skills, like, okay, like I'm going to do this like skill really well, or I'm going to like make this transition work for me. I feel like it is very possible to kind of implement it into other sports. And I think that really helped me a lot.
Totally. In everyday life, just like what are the basic building blocks that make you successful?
Yeah. And what is in your control as well? Because I think oftentimes she would ask me about my race and I'd be like, well, I get panicked if I see people next to me and they're passing me, even though I'm doing my own race. And she was like, well, stop. She's like, why? Like, you can't control the speed that they go. You can utilize it if you want and say like, okay, oh, maybe that's a sign that I need to go faster. But also like you've put in the practice, you know how to race your own race. They might be somebody that starts really quick and then like slowly goes off, and you might be somebody that doesn't start up fast and then picks up speed.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. So what are you doing with this time for yourself? Do you have any goals for yourself? Or are you just kind of like taking it day by day? I love how everyone does whatever is right for them, and it's great.
Yeah. So I've actually tried to do like more different skills. I think moving here for my master's, I had kind of a core group of friends, but my master's was very international as well. So a few friends have gone home, some friends have stayed here. But then again, like London is a very busy city. So then what I've been trying to do is branch out and be like a little bit more social outside at the pool. So I've gone to like events, or I'm kind of like, okay, like I'm into like this kind of music. Like I'll go to like this venue if there's this music playing, or even like arts and crafts and hobbies. I'm kind of like, I want to start doing more things that are very out of my comfort zone to kind of socialize and meet people organically. Because I think I've always had my core group of friends from swimming, but it's nice to also meet people that do other things where I don't really always have to talk about the pool. And so I've been running a lot as well. One of my goals this year is to do a half marathon. So I've signed up for that, but I'm trying to hold myself accountable for. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, we've been somewhat training for that. And then also just kind of staying in shape. But I think something that is really interesting, and I don't know if like other elite athletes have kind of spoken about this, but when you go from like obviously elite training to then taking a break, the body changes. Like the way that like a sustainable kind of workout routine is very different to what you were doing before. And so I think that's also been a very learning process for me during this time as well.
That's definitely something we have heard before. I think it's probably different in every sport. What does that look like for you?
Well, before I literally was like, I'm going to keep up the same routine. So I was like, I'm in a gym every single day. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to go. But then I'm also trying to go out to events and meet people. And I'm like, okay, this is not sustainable. I know it's a lot. So at the moment, it's kind of like, okay, gym 3 times a week, also including cardio. To me, sometimes I think it sounds like, oh, you're not doing enough. But then I have to have that positive self-talk and be like, Julimar, like this is a different chapter in your life. Enjoy it. And so I think that is a lot of the positive self-talk that I've had recently as well. But and also just trying new things. Like I've been trying one workout class that does like treadmill and weights at the same time, kind of similar to Barry's, but isn't Barry's. And then also Pilates. I did a lot of Pilates when I was doing my master's. So I've been trying to kind of bring that back up as well. And that's been really nice. Yeah. Just kind of trying different exercises. And yeah, recently I went to a run club by myself and it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but then I made a friend right away. She was super chatty and I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, this is great. And so then we kind of made our own little group and I was like, this is exactly what I want. Like trying new things and meeting new people and making friends.
That sounds absolutely perfect. One question that we like to ask every athlete we work with is what advice you would give to your younger self. I think we have so many aspiring Olympians, Paralympians who listen to this and are in our community. So, you know, they're you maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So what would you want to tell them?
Enjoy the time that you have and really cherish the experiences. Because even the practices that are very tough, when you finish, you're still really proud of yourself. Actually, I think that might be it. Be proud, because every practice that you go to, whether it's a good practice or not a good practice, the fact that you did it is great. And so enjoying it and being proud of like what you're putting your body through and what your body can do. I think we really need to like cherish and be happy about that.
Wow, I'm so pumped up about that.
I hope so.
I love that.
But yeah, I'm trying to think. I really think that's the best one. And then also, I think something else is what I've already kind of brought up is about the support system. Like understand that you have people in your corner. I think that's something that's really important as well. Again, like not everybody has the luxury of like a sports psych. I was really lucky to have that. And I think that really helped me in my final or in like this recent year. I think being able to have people to talk to, whether they do your same sport or even having people outside of the sport, I think that also helped me because they were unbiased in what they were telling me about things. Yeah, understanding that you have a support system and really utilizing that, I think is very important because I don't think I really understood that until I was older.
The question we like to end on is what one action you want people in our community to take after hearing your story. So is there an ask you have of people or a request or a way they can support you or support your team or whatever it is for you? So what one action do you want people to take after hearing your story?
I guess as a follow-up, anybody that does the journaling, if they can I wanted to kind of know if it does help other people, because I know that it's helped me a lot. So I would love to hear success stories, or also if people like don't find it as helpful, what other tools and tips that they use, because then maybe somebody reading it will find something else that's really helpful for them. But I think just continuing to like lead the lives that they lead. And I feel like sport and education is very important. So I always like to promote that also the school, like the educational part is just as important as sport. And so I think often this is something that I love to say when I'm in Honduras and I'm kind of talking to my fellow swimmers, just because swimming has helped me get a scholarship. And I also believe that the skills that you learn in your sport can help you in your professional life or kind of outside of that environment. So really utilizing those skills that we learn from like our teammates with teamwork, time management, and discipline, and understand that that can also help you with your education and then further on in your professional life. I don't sometimes, and again, this is something that I learned recently, we have these skills and we don't use them to our full potential outside of our sport. Like I'm so great with discipline and routine when it comes to swimming, but then I don't really kind of speak about how good that is, or like you need to use it to like the max capacity that I can in my professional life.
Totally.
And I think that's something that's really important.
Thanks for tuning in to Flame Bearers Unedited. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a positive review on your favorite podcasting platform or YouTube. If you want to see more behind the scenes coverage, follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, whatever platform you're on, we're there too. Thanks, and we'll catch you on our next episode.